Hello and welcome back to another Shadow of the Cast podcast episode. I am here with Villain Theory, and today we are talking all about the lore that drives our favorite game, the Marvel Comics. How you doing, Villain?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited for this episode, but I'm maybe like a little bit nervous because I feel like when you asked for questions from the community, you set it up as kind of like the lore episode and all this, and Villain Theory is now a comic book master, and I'm just gonna clear the record to sort of saying, typically I've been the non-comic book guy. I don't know what's going on. Who's Spider-Man again? No, not quite. But it's been I've not been reading comics typically very much. It's always been something I've been interested in, but never had the time to read a substantial amount. Like I read like a couple here and there, but not very many. But now I maybe because you got video, if you are watching on YouTube, you can see there's some kind of like different bookcase stuff going on behind me. There's like a whole bunch of books and hardback and like graphic novel, like trade paperback. There's all sorts of collections and individual comics. And I have been reading like, I don't know, 20 plus a week the last couple of weeks and things. And we're gonna see how this goes.
That's amazing. I have not read. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I haven't read any comics. I think I actually have. Like I subscribe to like is it Marvel Unlimited? Is that the the digital version? I did that. I got like the free trial. I tried it out for a little bit. I think I tried to read some of Civil War just because I've heard that's such like an iconic storyline. This is before the box was even announced as well. But then I've done some Star Wars comics. But other than that, I am just like not the comic expert. I haven't read any, so I'm very excited to kind of pick your brain about comics. And like, I guess my first question is like, why? So you went from not reading comics to having 3 bookshelves full of comics. What's up with that?
It's complicated. Well, first off, I actually quickly wanted to say when you brought up Marvel Unlimited, we do have that. When I say we, my partner has it, but she showed me a little bit. Like, I find it much more engaging to read the physical book than like read off a phone or something like that. Because it zooms into the panels and all that kind of thing. But with like the book, you can kind of absorb the page, look back over the action, kind of follow it through, and see how it leads on to the next. And I just prefer that quite a bit. Yeah, she's been quite keen on comics for a while. She's read more comics than me. Maybe I should have asked her to guest on this episode. She's read like the first, I don't know, 50 to 100, I don't know exactly, like issues of like the X-Men, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, as well as a couple of like the more modern ones that we now have here. But we were at a comic shop and, she's like, oh, I kind of want a physical comic. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. I read it as well. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And then suddenly I see, and, it was secondhand, but I saw this like big lot of like graphic novels, like collective stories, everything from like Iron Man, Dark Phoenix, Civil War is actually in here as well. I haven't got to that yet, but I'm going to prioritize it before the expansion comes out. Hopefully the lore gives me an advantage against you if we do any PvP kind of like matches. I don't think so. But I saw this deal and they were like really cheap, and it's like, it's a lot of them, but they're really cheap. And it's like, what the heck? When am I going to get to do this? I've always kind of wanted comics, but it's kind of seemed, I don't know, unachievable or like a big commitment, or it's like a whole realm I haven't really been familiar with. Where do I even start? It's like, oh, there's this big deal on like 70 plus books here, but good price. I'll just get this. And then I kept an eye out for more deals, and I've kind of built up quite a big collection quite quickly, which I haven't read through most of it, but I'm really enjoying it. So I'm confident I will, and I'm also confident I got such a good deal. If I don't read it, I could resell it, and I would probably make my money back at least. But I'm planning to read them and keep them. They look really cool. Maybe we can put up a picture or something, and then we talked about that a little bit before the episode, so I can show my sudden collection. But yeah, just kind of always had this want to read comics, but I've never actually had them, not really enjoyed reading it off like a device, and suddenly saw this deal that was it was an offer I couldn't refuse.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll throw the picture up. It looks so cool because all of the like spines create like a panorama picture, which I think just looks amazing on the shelf. So that's so cool. I also am in your boat where I have tried like the unlimited, and then I didn't love the digital. I guess I didn't know that I didn't love the digital until I actually bought some Star Wars comics, and I've been reading those physical, and I feel like I'm able to absorb and just appreciate the art, and that's a whole other side to the comic book reading that I just like didn't really think about. Like when I was doing it on digital, I was just like, okay, I'm reading this like a book. I'm going to read the words and see how fast I can get through this thing. And that is not how you're supposed to read comics. I'm more interested in the physical versions of these stories. But I got to ask, how many have you read since you picked them up?
So let's say a significant amount of this collection is, like you say, the kind of hardback ones, the spines form a picture. I think I've read almost 10 of those, and each one contains somewhere between, I think the smallest is 4, but the highest is maybe 8. And I think on average it's like 6 or 7. So at least 60 kind of comic issues combined in those. But I've also got several like normal kind of trade paperbacks, which I've read for at least 3 or 4 of those. And we have a whole box of like, I say a whole box, maybe like half a box. There's probably like 70 plus individual ones, and I've read like most of those. So I'm gonna say over 100 issues, definitely.
That's
but
insane.
Not like over 1,000.
Yeah. Holy cow, that's so cool. And I think I have described this on stream before, that one of the main reasons that I have not gotten into comic book reading is it's just intimidating. There are so many Marvel comics out there. In order to like read a story, you have to read like issue 17 from this arc, 25 from this arc, and it gets overwhelming very, very quickly. Unlimited puts them like in a reading order, which is kind of nice, but I am very ignorant, so pardon my silly questions, but I'm going to ask them, what does one of these books contain then? So you said it like contains 4 to 8. What does that mean?
So basically 4 to 8 comics that make like a series or a storyline, or like a story arc maybe. So for example, one of them, maybe I can grab it. I can do like I'm a real streamer, I'm a real content creator. I can grab things and show them off.
Show and tell.
So I've got like this. I don't know if the US audience they probably won't recognize the exact style of this, because I think different rights to putting some of the comics in the UK, but they are the same comics inside. So we have Wolverine here. This is I think Wolverine's first solo run is in here. And on the back it says collecting Wolverine like 1 to 4. So the first 4 issues of Wolverine's like solo series, which for all I know, maybe that was the whole series, maybe it's a mini series, I don't know. But it's got them all 4 of them in here. So you'll open it up, and I must apologize for anyone listening like full podcast. But I'm holding up a book that just has a picture of Wolverine's face on the front, and he's doing kind of a "come get me, bub" kind of like pose on it.
It's got the little like, yeah, come on over.
Yeah, maybe that inspired, the artwork. But it will have like the first comic cover there, and then you read the first comic, and then it'll have the next comic cover side, and you just keep reading through and have the whole thing in there. And if it's something more complicated, maybe like Civil War, for example, it's just about back on the shelf. I'll fix it later. This is why other people listening purely through my Spotify or Apple Podcasts, etc., don't get to see me fumbling like clumsily making problems here. So it's an advantage. But so let's say Civil War, for example, which I do have there. It will collect them, not just that one was Wolverine 1 to 4. The Civil War book will probably like grab a scattering of them from different places and put them in the right order, and then you just read through like a book. And it's almost like the comic book covers are almost like a new chapter is how I kind of view it. So yeah, it's got all the comic stuff there, pretty easily gathered for me, which is pretty convenient, because I'm like you, where would I start, where would I go, what do I need to look up? And I don't have to do that now, which is good. Although I have, by researching, I'm quite far, I have researched what I need to read before this or read before that. And I've got like a vague kind of picture in my head, but it's quite a lot. Don't know if you know this, but Marvel have produced quite a large amount of comics across the last however many
100.
Years.
At least 100 of them.
Oh, at least 100 comics, definitely.
Yeah. It's impressive how many that they have made. And I guess like we got a lot of questions from our listeners, and I think a lot of them kind of circle around like the theme and the tie-in to Marvel Champions. And I want to ask, one, before we even dive into Champions, do you have a favorite book or favorite story arc that you have read so far?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I feel like this is gonna be like a really like default, like really like common answer, but I've been reading some of the X-Men stuff by Chris Claremont. Hopefully I'm saying that right, Claremont. I just read the covers. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I think he took over not long after all as the second kind of wave of X-Men were introduced. So this is stuff characters like Wolverine, Storm, and so on. Is my understanding vaguely? Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. But he's done like the Phoenix stuff, Dark Phoenix, um, Days of Future Past. I've just read one. Actually, I've literally. This is great. This is great. This was not planned. I have like a little mini version here of it. This is God Loves, Man Kills. That little like bit of the story. And they've been really good. What I like about his writing is that I feel like without much effort, and we're still making like the story move forward and action happens, really shows off the characters and good characterization, and really like brings me into it. Everyone on the team feels individual, and it's just I don't know something quite gripping. They're written like I don't know in the 70s, I think some of them. I don't think certain parts of them would be written the same way today in 2025, but like general, really, really good, really compelling, and I've really, really enjoyed that. So I forgot what the original question is. I'm just talking about X-Men stuff. I think maybe it's my favorite books to read. Maybe the Chris Claremont run of X-Men is my current answer.
Nice, nice. And then a question that I'm also curious about from Dustin. What do you enjoy most about the comics? Are you looking more at like the art? Do you care more about the story?
Ooh.
Kind of both? And then we answer the last kind of part of his question, which is physical versus digital. But yeah, what do you enjoy most about reading comics?
Well, I'm going to go to the end of this question first because we already sort of covered that the physical versus digital. One of the things I kind of like is being able to like, read something or reference something that happened earlier in the comic, and I can like flick back to it a lot more easier than I feel like I could in digital. I mean, you can in digital, obviously, but I don't know, something about it just really convenient. I can just kind of like flick through and all that kind of thing. And it's also nice in this day and age to do something away from a screen. I'm a very screen-oriented person, so having like a physical book. I mean, I guess staring at a page isn't crazy different in a way, but like I've really enjoyed that. For me, is it story or art? I think story comes first and foremost. Like it could be pretty pictures, but like the story is just not engaging or like completely random and like I don't understand it. Then like I'm just gonna kind of tune it out, and it's like I can just scroll pretty pictures online or anything if I really wanted to. It has to have like a good story. I think I'm a very story oriented person in general. I like a good story that will like grip me and bring me into it. So that comes first, and then I think the art elevates it. Some of these comics I've read, some of them literally, actually released like a week or two ago. I've got a couple of issues that are really recent. I've read like the last, I think, 8 or 9 Amazing Spider-Mans. I've read the new run of Captain America, the first 2 of those, the first 2 New Avengers. And then, I'm also reading some from, I think a couple like from the 60s. I read like The Birth of Ultron. I've read, some 70s, some 80s stuff. I read Secret Wars. And the art of those, it's very iconic, but it's very different to the current stuff where you get these full sort of really detailed, colored full pages. And, some of these are, it's a more simplistic style, but it's very like iconic. I guess I might describe it. It's almost like maybe looking like a sketch and then looking at like a really high digital like art piece. It's somewhere there, but like I really like looking at sketches. So some of these older style art is very like evocative, I think might be the word I'm looking for. So I've actually enjoyed the old art and the new art. I think what needs to happen is there needs to be some kind of like personality, particularly to the characters, and it needs to be using the pictures to help tell the story well. Because the way I see a comic almost is it's using pictures to fill in a lot of the this character went over here and did this. This character went over, like you just see it and you take it all in, and then you've got like these speech bubbles like popping out on that, and definitely some art I prefer over others. Some can be a little bit. Sometimes it gets too artsy and it's a bit confusing, but for the most part, it's all pretty good, and I really like it. So art enhances it, but story is what you stick around for, or maybe what I'm searching for in the first place. But you see a pretty cover and it does pull you in.
Yeah. I remember I flipped through. I want to say it was a Penny Parker comic on when I had my trial of Marvel Unlimited, and like the art in that was just absolutely stunning. It had like this really like nice like pastel color theme, and that was just something that I had not like conceptualized before, that like like we can have different art styles in these comics as well, and then that can really kind of portray like the feeling of the story, which I just like that's just That's just fun. I was just like looking at all the pretty pictures. Okay, I know this is a Marvel Champions podcast. We will get to Champions after this question unless I come up with another one. But if you are talking to someone like me who has not read, does not know where to start, where would you suggest or recommend they start reading comics?
Ooh, this is a tricky one. So I think it depends how you like art. Because if you read an old comic book, my friend's actually said this to me recently. He actually has the Secret Wars that I mentioned as well, like storyline from like I think it's 1984. Look at me, I know when they're actually published.
Nice.
I'm a real comic nerd now. But I don't think he enjoyed it so much because it had an older art style, and I think he's a bit more used to newer stuff. He's a bit more of a casual comic fan. Whereas he read like some stuff about Thanos that was more recent, and that like he enjoyed that a lot more because the art was different. So I think it depends. I get this. I come from not so much these days, but I come from like a very video game oriented background, and some people hate retro graphics. Some people need like the highest quality, newest game as best as possible. Other people love the old stuff or like love a mixture of it, and I think part of it's actually going to depend on your art style because you could go back to the old stuff. If you're interested in like some of the older X-Men stuff and want to start reading like that, Second Genesis, if you can find like the sort of graphic novel trade paperback kind of thing where it has, I think, giant size X-Men and then some of the Uncanny X-Men run that comes after it. That's when they introduce a lot of the new characters and team and kind of the original team kind of switches out for a bit kind of thing. That's a really good place to start reading X-Men, but it's going to be an older style of art. Where if you want your art to look more like what you'll find on a Marvel Champions card, you might need something more recent. And I'm not 100% sure where the best place to answer that is, because in a weird way, I've somehow read hyper new comics and then sort of 70s, 80s comics, and I haven't read a ton of like 2000 to, I don't know, 2019. That's kind of why I haven't got to that yet, in a way where I feel like a lot of stuff might be good to read. But I have heard people say that the Civil War storyline, the first one, is actually a Civil War suit. The original Civil War storyline is a pretty decent place to jump in if you maybe wanted something more recent and pretty relevant to Marvel Champions, in all honesty. I hear there are a couple of references in there to House of M, but I haven't read that either yet. I've got it, but I haven't read it yet. So, but apparently it doesn't matter too much. So those are going to be my first places. But I will say what I'm reading right now. Maybe if you're a Daredevil fan, I'm reading Daredevil Born Again. It is quite a dark comic, but I'm really enjoying it. So Daredevil fans, I'm gonna shout that one out.
Yeah. I did say that we were going to start talking about Marvel Champions, and you brought up Daredevil, so like that feels a little bit of a stab in the back, but I love it.
Well, I'm talking about there's a Daredevil ally in Marvel Champions, and clearly, I can really see how the comic book has brought the ally to. I actually can't. I have no idea what I'm saying. I'm trying.
There's a Daredevil ally and soon to be a Daredevil minion. But,
Oh, yeah. Probably, yeah.
Hilarious. Well, speaking of that, we have a question from Mr. Jedi Knight. Who is the most thematic nemesis and who has the least? So we're going to go and talk about the bad guys. We've been talking about the good guys here for a little bit.
I don't know if I know all of the sets and what's sort of thematic and what isn't, but what's always felt thematic for me, even before I read comics, I want to shout out a Nebula's nemesis set, where she makes Gamora attack her, and that can like include the player attacking her. I think that's really fun. Where like your nemesis could kind of be a player at the table in a way. Like that's next level, and that's a really fun frenemy kind of thing. So that was the one that sprang out to me. What do you think of the Nebula set? Have you had that happen in any two-handed games?
I have.
We have.
I don't know if it was a two-handed game, or I want to say it was a game that I was actually doing with D20. Where that came out, and we did a campaign playthrough with Nebula and Gamora, and then oh man, you caught me off guard here. There's another set, and I think the Nebula Nemesis set that gives Gamora +1 attack, and so like you attach it to Gamora, and so like you attach the card to Gamora, and so it's like a treachery that comes out and like benefits Gamora, or maybe vice versa. But we were trying to set that up, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I have had it where like the hero has to attack, and then it just gets chaotic.
Yeah, I'm also going to shout out. I think Visions is fun. I think to have Ultron as a nemesis is really striking, and I like that the drones come out. I don't know. if I've actually read like a comic where the nemesis really does things exactly like the nemesis. So you know what? I actually totally have, and you can maybe relate to this a tiny bit here. I read a bit about Penny Parker, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't have a ton of books. Maybe I think they took a lot of art from this for Marvel Champions and a lot of inspiration in terms of like the signature and etc. for Penny Parker from this comic. And the Nemesis set is really like the big enemy she fights in this kind of comic, and that is the Morbius robot. And it does try and take her energy and stuff, and like they have done that in that way, kind of identically. So I thought that worked out well. It's not like this mechanic's really clever and represents this, but they have actually got what is meant to kind of be one of the bigger enemies that I've seen her fight at least there. So there's probably a better answer here for Nemesis. There's probably a better answer for not Nemesis. The least good Nemesis, but the one that springs to my mind for that, even before reading comics, I'm just going to shout this out. They gave Spider-Man the Vulture instead of Green Goblin. Green Goblin is his nemesis, right? Am I wrong here? Like, where's Green Goblin?
I would say it has to be Green Goblin. If it's not Green Goblin, then it's Doc Ock. And if it's not Doc Ock, it's a couple other people before I would get to Vulture, I think.
Yeah, Vulture's like an enemy. Like, it's an old school enemy.
Yep.
But I don't think it's his nemesis. And I think there's probably a couple of characters like that. So that one is the one that immediately springs to mind.
I'm curious if from the core set, now I'm just trying to think about the Nemesis sets in the core set, if they set out in the game design to have these as kind of like characters that were not the biggest adversary to the specific hero. Like you have Vulture, you have Killmonger for Black Panther, and I guess I don't know anything other than like the movies, but like kind of Claw is kind of the main antagonist. Killmonger is also the main. I don't know, but like it doesn't seem like it seems like they almost picked like smaller names for that core box. Who like Whiplash for Tony, like right, like so these weird things, and then like as the game progressed, it feels like when the Nemesis that was introduced, it is kind of that main adversary for the villain. So I wonder if they set out with a different design intention with the Nemesis sets, and then they kind of were like, no, these are cool, we should put the big names in here as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do feel like the core set, it's kind of a very unique product in Marvel Champions. They very well could have changed kind of their approach, because nowadays we have like Cable's Nemesis is Strife, who's the last villain of the box he comes with. I think he's in that box, right? So you get Cable in Next Evolution, and then at the end of Next Evolution, you've got Strife, there as the main villain. So it's kind of interesting that they kind of just, this is their nemesis. This is their nemesis. It's kind of how I feel that's kind of shaped out to be. Yeah, and I mean, I look at Drax. Drax has Yotat the Destroyer, and I haven't really got to read a lot of Guardian stuff yet, so I'm not really using my new knowledge here, but shouldn't it be Thanos? Like, isn't Thanos the guy that he's like, so I kind of feel like
or Ronan.
That should be the...
Was it Thanos or Ronan that he's super, like...
I think in the movie it's kind of like both of them.
Okay.
Ronan was kind of working for Thanos, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a line like how Arthur Ronan was like, yeah, but he was working for this guy. Yeah, because he's mad at Gamora because she's the daughter of Thanos. So yeah, he's just mad at everyone.
Drax is a mad person.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you were talking about with the Spider comics, where you said that you think that they pulled a lot of art from the specific Spider into the Penny Parker hero kit. We have a question.
Oh, so much.
We have a question from Mark. Do you point out when you come across art that's used in Marvel Champions cards? So you're like, oh. Yeah, you do?
Oh, yeah. So I remember me and my partner at like the comic book shop, and picked up this Sam Wilson Captain America comic, and like flicking through it, and she's like, oh, isn't that from Marvel Champions? I'm like, oh, that is from Marvel Champions. And she gets really excited when she finds something from Marvel Champions. I do as well, and we want to point it out, or like take a picture, or like to show the if they're not there. And it's definitely become a thing, and it's kind of like you get like a little, like, I don't know, like a little buzz from it. Like, I don't know, there's that Sam Wilson Captain America comic. We were thinking about getting it, and I was like, I'm not really sure. There's these other ones here. There's Daredevil. There's these different ones that I'm maybe a bit more typically like inclined toward. And she's like, no, I think I want to get it. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? we read it. It's extremely good. I think this is actually kind of like a book that contains the first 5 issues, maybe, of I think it's called All Star Captain America. But it's like the Sam Wilson Captain America. Maybe it's All Star Sam Wilson. I don't know. But it's actually A, really, really, really good. Really enjoyed it. But B, boy, did they take a lot of this art, particularly the early stuff, maybe like the core set and Marvel Champions. I kept recognizing stuff. I think like the Haymaker art. I think maybe it was Power and Leadership. All these different cards. I'm like, wow, they've really taken a lot from this book. And I think that book has only been sort of beaten for me by that Penny Parker story. I think it's one of the Edge of Spider-Geddon comics. I've read a couple of the Spider-Verse bits. And basically, it was setting up some stuff before the second big Spider-Verse event, I believe. And this Penny Parker book, I feel like half of her cards came from this one like story. It's every time I turn a page, I'm like, oh, there's web fluid compressor. There's this. Oh, there's Venom. There's this other thing, and it was all coming. Oh, there's her Aunt May and Uncle Ben card. They were all coming from this book. So that was just every page was kind of like another card. That doesn't normally happen. I think most characters have a bigger maybe print history. But I do know Marvel Champions can only use art from like so far back. It has to be somewhat recent. They can't use stuff from like 50 years ago.
Yeah. That would make a really cool promo set though, right? If they like did like Captain America, but from like the original and they redid all the art on that, that would be a really cool promo set, I think.
It'd be really cool. There's definitely some things they can do. I would love some like retro art for sure, especially for like maybe like Spider-Man, some of like the classic ones. But yeah, I think even somewhere, I can't remember where I came across it, but I even saw the Spider-Man, because the core set heroes is taken from comics. A lot of the modern day ones, they're like commissioned for the game. But Spider-Man's core set hero art is from, I think it's from a front cover of a book. And I believe I own it or I saw it. And yeah, that kind of thing, I see it and I'm excited by it. And I quite enjoy that. So to answer the question, yes, I definitely point that out.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's like a specific like rule that if it has like the artist's name on the Marvel Champions card, it was commissioned for the game, and if it doesn't, then it is part of a comic or vice versa or something like that. I know that I got this from Winning Hand, the podcast that like talks about one card and then they dive into the art a lot, and they have like a database somewhere floating around, or I've seen it online, where it's like this card is from this issue on this page, and I just think that's such a fun like community gathering of information.
Yeah, that's really fun. I haven't seen that database or anything, but it's just such fun to find them, and I bet that's kind of fun to work together as a community thing. So that's I like that. I like that a lot. And actually, Nelson, this might surprise you. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay, let's go.
What are your thoughts on Hulkling?
What am I? Oh, shoot! Did they just post an article?
They did just post an article.
That's insane. Okay, wild.
Yeah, it's not a character I've read about yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of exciting. I like Hulkling, I think, more than I like talking about comics.
Oh, snap.
So I think what I would like to do is take a quick pause from the podcast, go live, talk about Hulkling. Okay, this is on us. We knew this was going to happen because every single time we record an episode, they post an article. So I don't know why we thought that we were not going to see it here.
No, they posted an article last week. This is if they've ever done this before, I think it was like maybe once. I got like Nova in my head for some reason, maybe after Ironheart or vice versa. But like they don't typically post new hero back to back.
Yeah.
But they did.
They did. So we're going to take a break. We're going to go live and talk about the Hulkling article that just dropped. I'm also going to link that there. But if you are just listening, it probably will not be very much time at all. I feel like I need to say welcome back, although like
there'll be no time passed.
There's going to be no time passed as magic, but we just finished up the Hulkling article kind of live reaction. I am very impressed. I'm looking forward to our new green boy.
He looks very, very good.
Yeah. So I will make sure to link that down below. So if you have not seen that video, you can easily go see it because it is a really cool article, a really cool hero that's coming to us in the Civil War box. But we are talking all about comics. And so I don't quite remember exactly where we left off. So I'm going to start fresh here with a question from Matt Barnes, who asked, which comic series that you have read has enhanced your playing of a certain hero deck and why?
Interesting question here, because I don't know if a comic has enhanced my playing in terms of like skill or winning with a character. Does that make sense? That'd be crazy though. That'd be crazy, like getting into their headspace, like understanding them really helped me like beat a scenario. But it definitely enhances the playing in terms of fun. And honestly, as someone who's mostly, I've liked Marvel, but haven't read a lot of comics specifically. Reading the comics has given me a much deeper understanding of basically anyone I've read a comic for, much more than the MCU. Here's an example, and I looked it up, by the way, while we were doing the Hulkling thing, which no time has passed for you guys, but a little bit of time passed for us. The book I've read with Captain America Sam Wilson is the first 5 issues of All-Star Captain America, all new Captain America. And that really gives me a really good sense of Falcon, maybe more than the movie did. I don't know, something about it. It's got Red Wing. It just fits the whole way the card game works more than the movie did. And it really helps the immersion of why these things are doing these things, why these characters are taking different actions. And more than actually just enhancing playing a certain hero, it's maybe the multiplayer thing. Because I'm reading, let's say, one of these X-Men books, and Nightcrawler and Wolverine pull off some combo that they practice in the Danger Room. I didn't know they did that, and now playing Wolverine and Nightcrawler feels way more immersive. Yeah, it was 2 X-Men, but now it's 2 specific X-Men that have this like move together that go off and sent off to destroy this gate and all these different things. It just makes it more kind of immersive, I think I said, but thematic is a word that comes up a lot in this game, and really ties it together. And I'm just taking this question a little bit away from just the one character here, even more. Because in one of these X-Men books, they took on some bad guys that are a mod set from a completely different box in Marvel Champions. Actually, from the Galaxy's Most Wanted box. There's a mod set in there. I didn't know the X-Men had anything to do with these guys, but they fought them in the comics. And I think it's a pretty iconic, thing. At least for me, it was. It was pretty cool. So now I'm thinking, I've got some X-Men heroes. I can use this mod set, and it fits that much better. It doesn't feel like these weird elements coming together. Actually, these weird elements have come together in the comics. I've read a whole storyline, start, a middle, a finish, and it's more complete. And that's really fun for me. And in one of these comics as well, Captain Marvel's just hanging around the mansion for some reason, the X Mansion. I think she's invited there. She was meeting up with, I don't know, maybe it was Storm or something. And then these events happen, and Captain Marvel's here. Kind of makes these kind of weird team ups between 2 heroes feel like a little bit more likely. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I think less of one character. In fact, it's probably made me more picky with like how immersive, like how well these characters have been done, how accurate they are. But in terms of bringing different elements together, really like it.
Nice. Okay, my mind is going in 2 different directions, so I'm going to pick one and then I'm going to come back to the other. Have you built out a champion scenario that is kind of not the standard one, but a one that you're recreating events that you read in comics? So you mentioned like a mod set that wasn't even a part of the villain that you were playing, but like it came together in the comics. Have you played through some of those like storylines?
So I know you actually have your MCU kind of games you do that like kind of play along the movies, and this is kind of like the comic book version of that. Since I've been reading more comics, I don't. Yes, there are a couple, and one of which is kind of interesting is I've read like the 1984 Secret Wars, which has a lot of different heroes and a lot of different villains that I wouldn't necessarily think would like all interact and match up and talk. So that's one example, and something that actually this is a little bit different. This isn't out yet, but will be out in September in Civil War. What me and my partner were talking about is we recently got kind of like the omnibus, like big book. It's got like 13 issues or something in of Avengers versus X-Men. So now we're going to get these Avenger leaders. We can take the X-Men heroes up against them. and kind of recreate that, if that makes sense. So I'm really
That's
looking
cool.
toward having some, some X-Men take down some Avengers.
Nice, nice. How it feels like that. Like as growing up as a kid, I would talk to my friends who did read comic books, and I feel like the X-Men versus Avengers was like a huge deal. Like, is that like a reoccurring theme, or is that like one event that happened through like the stories?
I think they've probably fought each other a couple of times. I don't think it's a spoiler. This 1984 Secret Wars is from 1984, right? Hopefully that's the right date, but it's definitely 1980s. I'm just going to say, at one point, Spider-Man overhears something. He gets it wrong, kind of, but kind of not. I don't know. But basically, he overhears something he doesn't like, so he swoops down and basically whoops the X-Men. He like swings down, like kicks them, then he like dodges all of their attacks and disappears off. And Wolverine's like, "Hey, that guy just really took us on, like could have like taken us out." So there's kind of I don't think he was an Avenger at the time, but definitely an Avengers affiliated character took on the X-Men over there. But I think they've done other ones. But the Avengers vs X-Men is like a specific like big kind of crossover event. Not as big as like Civil War or anything. I don't think like that. I don't think it had that kind of like reception or reach in general. But yeah, it was. It's a thing that happened, and there's many of those in the comics. But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of fun. I mean, these heroes always end up fighting other heroes.
Oh yeah. It, it makes for exciting stories, right? Like it's really cool when you see like these teammates turn on each other, and it's like, then why, and like what is the reasoning and the driving force behind like why are they like punching each other now? Like they're good guys, and so I think that's always a very compelling story to tell.
I also want to say, I think maybe in general, heroes are typically written. I don't know if I'd say better, but maybe I'd say better, but more detail and like more understanding. Like the writers might have more understanding of the hero because they're telling the story from the hero's perspective for the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the readers are more familiar with them because they're seeing it from their perspective and they're cheering them on. Seeing two characters with that kind of familiarity, detail, level of writing, and understanding, and maybe like support from the fans clash. It's like, oh, who do I want to win? Who is going to win? You just got more connection to that. So I think that's kind of fun to see. There's actually also, I think it's Contest of Champions, not like the video. Is it a mobile game? I think that is actually a storyline as well, where a bunch of heroes end up fighting and stuff. So there's
Nice.
definitely.
Well, that's a good name for the
examples.
video game then, right? Like because in the
Yeah.
video game it's the heroes fighting each other.
Hmm.
That's cool. Okay, that's fun. That's a really fun tie-in. Huh? Nice.
Yeah. I only learned that recently.
I learned it because it was like in the post that I made to like ask for questions for this podcast. I put a couple of covers, and one of the covers I think was the Contest of Champions.
Oh, really?
No, it was Rivals. It was Marvel Rivals, which is another
Similar.
like video game. But that's cool. We have two questions that kind of revolve around kind of the same theme from Dan the Crow and Dennis that I want to ask. Basically, what hero pack do you think is most thematic? And then like more specifically, Dennis's question is, do the mechanics and the power levels of the heroes in the comics get reflected effectively in their champions counterpart?
I'm going to start with that last bit. I feel like I always do that. About the power levels. The short answer is no. The power levels in Marvel Champions, I feel like are all over the place. But also, more than that, the power levels in the comics I've read are all over the place. In one comic, that example I gave, Spider-Man basically swings in and messes with the whole X-Men, and they can't stop him. He kind of like smacks a couple of them, swings away, they all can't get him. And it's like, wow, Spider-Man's really powerful. Wolverine's like, wow, Spider-Man could have taken us all out. Fast forward a bit, reading some of the more recent, Spider-Man stuff, different things. Sometimes, just name a random villain from Spider-Man's gallery. At one point, they probably single-handedly beat Spider-Man. But how does Spider-Man beat all the X-Men? But this person, I feel like the writing, the power level of the character kind of maybe varies with the writer and the kind of story they're trying to tell and what suits the story. So I don't know if there is a consistent power level in the comics. I don't know if any readers more experienced than me would agree with that, but it definitely feels like there's some heavy fluctuation. I mean, of course, some characters learn and get stronger over time as well, and it depends what part of time you're trying to capture in Marvel Champions of that character, because some of them do vary. Let's say, for example, the Falcon in Marvel Champions isn't Captain America Falcon. You can give him the shield and leadership, but he is Falcon.
Yeah.
And I think most people would probably agree, that Captain America Falcon, more experienced, more equipment, I guess, but just probably stronger overall. So definitely some, I'm just looking, I'm scrolling some heroes in Marvel Champions. Magneto's not strong enough in Marvel Champions. He's strong, but I don't know. I played his scenario. He's not as strong as a hero as his scenario is as a villain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
So that part of it changes up. In terms of the most thematic hero, that one's really tough for me because so many of them are quite thematic.
So let me ask it in this way, which is a way that Dan also kind of expanded. Do you have specific cards that really kind of embody the character that when you play them, you're like, that was super thematic?
I mean, in that way, absolutely. I think there's a ton of those. Black Widow jumps to mind with just preparations in general.
Yeah.
That whole kind of way, she's one step ahead. She's setting things up. You know what I think is really immersive? I actually do love Nick Fury's stealth. I love the way that works. That makes me feel like I'm sneaking around. So that whole mechanic. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like this. I'm trying to think. I said there's a lot of stuff. What do I choose? Gambit's whole charge mechanic thing, I think, feels very thematic. I like that the more I charge up his card, the more effects it gets. So charged card, pretty simple concept, but I think it's pretty effective. There's going to be more. I should have read ahead, planned everything out really meticulously here. Oh, do you know what I really like? I really like Miss Marvel's shrinking and bigger. And if I'm bigger and my punch is bigger, it's very simple, but I really like that.
Okay, I don't think I've ever conceptualized thematically what that meant. I just +2, woo, that.
No.
That's as far as my mind has gone when it's come to that. I see champions. I'm getting better at it, but I see champions as numbers on the page typically. I like the gameplay of champions. I like the theme, but I'm here for the gameplay mainly. Oh shoot, I just lost it. Oh, I feel like Hulk Smash feels pretty thematic. +10. Just it smashes.
Hulk is a great example of power level doesn't match the comics, but some of his cards are thematic. It's just damage, and maybe I wish some of the numbers were tweaked a little bit, but whatever. That's not the topic here. But what they do, damage, smashing. It totally works.
Yeah. Is Hulk considered the strongest hero? In the comics?
I would say not, but he's pretty strong. I've not read every comic, but I know Thor is considered really, really strong.
Okay.
Sentry is obviously really strong.
Sentry. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Sentry.
I get him and Wonder Man mixed up for allies, but Sentry is the aggression ally.
The aggression getting counter card.
Yeah.
Catch up on some recent MCU movies is all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Nice.
It may be a little something there that will help. Something that's kind of slightly off topic but adjacent topic that I was kind of thinking about leading up to this podcast. I was thinking about Captain America versus Cyclops in Marvel Champions because both of them are leaders of their respective faction. I feel like Captain America's leadership kind of skills in Marvel Champions are really represented Ultrigo with his living legend, making an ally cheaper. But I feel like Cyclops, aside from taking X-Men from all aspects, his whole tactic things feels very much like leading the team. Because when I read Cyclops, he is coming up with a plan. He's like, you and you go here and do this. Me and other person will go and do that. Other person's like, we can't split the team up. It's too difficult. And he's like, we have to do it. It's this way. And it all works out and his plan works, etc. And Captain America, I've read in some of these books, he also kind of people look to follow him, who will lead, who will lead us? It's Captain America. But in Marvel Champions, aside from getting that ally discount, he's not actively doing so much of a leadership. There's not a planning. There's not so much direction from him. And I was wondering if they redid Captain America, which I think they've said they are doing, right, with the kind of revised stuff and all that. I wonder if they'll give him more leadership stuff or not. Because Cyclops, to me, I've always thought he's the laser blasting guy. Before I knew more about comics and just character in general. Even when you see him in the movie, he's just a jerk. It's never like the original ones, at least. It kind of felt like that. But really, now that I've read the comics, maybe this has helped me play them more in Marvel Champions. Cyclops having so much of a tactic upgrade thing be part of his kit feels more fitting to me. It really feels like that is what Cyclops should have. So actually, that has kind of helped. But I kind of feel like Captain America, in some ways, you could read a solo Captain America comic. It's probably just him, doesn't do any leading stuff. But he does so much that I kind of feel like maybe I'd like a little bit something more in his kit to do with that if they revise him. So that's just kind of a thought I had.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never like really thought about that from like a tactics perspective. It's really cool. I like how I guess like, are there any like heroes that you've been reading about that you want to see in Champions? And if so, like what is like that thing, right? Like Cyclops is like the tactic, like very like highly superior tactics. But like is there, they can be like an ally or something already in the game, but like or even a redo. Like is there someone that you've been really like connecting with that you're like, I want them in Champions and them to play like this?
Well, this is going to be predictable because I'm going to say Daredevil. But I have been reading Daredevil, Born Again.
Nice.
And, what I would have said before I read comics, etc., really anything, it's just, it's about his, like, radar senses and heightened senses, perceive, kind of hear, predict things coming, kind of thing like that. But now that I've read it, I think I need to see some kind of suffering. He needs to, like, somehow have a dark theme in, like, his nemesis or his obligation, something like that. Because the book I'm reading is at least as gritty as the Netflix show, I'll put it that way. So I kind of feel like maybe what it's made me realize is that like tone, aside from like mechanics and like theme, like how Thematic is what it's doing, there's kind of a tone. And I feel like there are little bits of room to represent that in Marvel Champions. I would love to see Hulk redone, not just for power reasons, but I'd like to see him a bit more angrier, a bit like his aggression ally version, where you discard and he could do different things. I'd like to see an air of unpredictability there. I've read quite a bit of Wolverine because he's in X-Men stuff. He's in that solo series I showed you guys earlier. He's in Wolverine just pops up everywhere. I'm just going to say it. And someone on my Discord server, actually, I can't remember who it was, apologies, was saying X-23 felt more like Wolverine than Wolverine in Marvel Champions. And now that I've read even more comics, even just the last few days, really, I think I see and kind of feel that more because Wolverine is fast-paced. He's furious. He's a little guy. He's a short king, but he is fast and furious, and like people can't keep up with him. And he's just like a whirlwind of adamantium claws. And in Marvel Champions, I'll exhaust the claws. I'll take some damage. I'll play that one attack from them. But X-23. I'm attacking, I'm readying, I'm getting attack bonus, I'm readying, I'm doing this and this and this. And it just feels more like the Furious Wolverine from the scenes I've read as X-23. Maybe not the signature ally thing, because sometimes Wolverine gets like knocked out of a fight, everyone else gets captured. This is in one of the storylines. I wouldn't say which, but then Wolverine comes back and he just like whoops everyone. But like the fast and furious nature of like how X-23 has so many cheap events and like that really feels almost like does feel more like Wolverine than the Wolverine hero does in Marvel Champions to me. I like both, but that kind of sprang to mind. So maybe a Wolverine that is kind of, like he's got that Berserker Rage card, I think it is, where he like does damage if he defeats something, can take damage and reuse the ability, something like that, but less conditional. And he kind of gets lost in these Berserker Rages frequently in the comics. And then nobody is safe. It's kind of this unpredictable kind of nature there that I would really like to see. I don't know how well it would translate to Marvel Champions. But yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
Has there ever been, or have you read a story where Hulk and Wolverine team up and it's just a whirlwind of chaos and anger?
I haven't yet. I've seen the flashbacks to, because I think Wolverine was introduced in a Hulk comic, and surprise, they fought. I don't think I've read... I have seen them technically on the same team before, but I haven't seen them together like that. But that sounds awesome. That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure it's happened.
On the flip side of the initial question, we have another question from a fantastic username, the Aggressive Napkin.
Nice.
Yeah, right. Who, is there a storyline that you would like to see adapted into a scenario box? They want to see a Maximum Carnage or King in Black box. I don't even know what King in Black is. I'm not familiar with that. I am familiar with Maximum Carnage, with an Eddie Brock Venom hero.
Yeah, so I have the Carnage book ready to read. I do not have King in Black, but it's on my wish list, so I have a vague idea about what the theme is, and it's symbiote stuff. It's all symbiote stuff. Symbiote stuff would be really fun. Actually, I think that would be excellent. But from more of what I've read, this is maybe more scenario pack stuff. Because a lot of people wanted this during the Mutant Waves, and we didn't get it. It's like a Dark Phoenix saga kind of themed scenario pack. Potentially I can make a box out of it, but that is something I would like, having now actually read the Dark Phoenix saga. It was really good. I've obviously seen I've seen a couple of movies on it actually, but the book was better, isn't it always?
Yeah.
And there's definitely potential there. A character like Sebastian Shaw, I didn't really know much about properly, but I feel like I have a really much better understanding now. You could have like Sebastian Shaw, Emma Frost, obviously like Dark Phoenix. I don't want to give away the whole comic thing if people haven't read it, because I like to encourage people to read it. But I think you could actually make 5 scenarios out of that box. Don't know who the heroes would be that we haven't got, I guess, is the only thing. But if they ever decided to, maybe like Captain America and Doctor Strange, redo a couple of older heroes, of some X-Men ones, that could be a really good way to do it. So that's my first answer. Or you could put Professor X hero in there. Ooh, and maybe is Beast involved? I think he is. I've just read it. I've already forgotten. There's so many comics and characters. You could do a box with that. Yeah, maybe
I would like to see a Beast hero at some point in my life.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna say Dark Phoenix box with Professor X and Beast, just because they're the X-Men we don't have, sort of note. I mean, there are more, but that's my first one. I don't know if I have more than that off the top of my head. For like a whole box is like 5 villains, and I don't know what storyline I've had that's like had 5 that I can remember right away.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
Nice. So to finish it off, we've got a question from the Olaps, which is like rapid fire questions. Just kind of get an idea of where you sit now that you've read a decent number of comics. First, what is your favorite power that somebody has in the comics?
Favorite power that somebody has. A lot of these X-Men books I've reading, there's been quite a bit of focus, to my surprise, on Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, though she does not have that name yet. And it's really fun seeing her, like, not trained for combat, freaking out, like, disappear through this wall, drop through the floor, she's being chased, all this stuff. But then she phases through stuff, and it, like, shorts out the electrics kind of thing. I don't think that's really represented in Marvel Champions. But she, like, phasing through, like, I guess there is kind of phased and confused, but just for, like, technology, I don't know. I kind of enjoyed seeing some of that. There's so many characters and different things here.
There are a ton of characters. It's kind of insane.
I kind of like Nightcrawler. I don't think what I realized before reading Nightcrawler is how limited his teleportation is. Like, he really needs to see where he's going, or he could teleport into something, get like stuck in something. And it like tires him out a bit, and it made the teleportation feel a lot more balanced to me, because in my head Nightcrawler just teleporting around.
Yeah,
that felt like ultra powerful. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but it felt a bit more balanced than I realized. And I kind of enjoy seeing that, if that makes sense. I kind of enjoy seeing that there's how far can these heroes push themselves. So yeah.
I can't remember who said it. I think it was Abraham Lincoln or Gandalf or someone that said that, like, the most interesting part of a hero is not their power, it's their limitation. And where, like, hearing that about Nightcrawler, whereas like teleportation is super freaking cool, but it's also like very draining. I think that's just fascinating, a really cool like side to his story. Also, as we're going through these rapid fire questions, while you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching, comment your answers, because I'm also really curious. Who is your favorite hero that you've read?
Okay, rapid fire. I'll try and answer quick. Daredevil just springs to mind, but here's a plot twist. One of the comics that stood out to me most is that all new Captain America, those first 5 issues with Sam Wilson, really kind of hooked me in. I don't know if it's a character so much as a comic, but I'll shout that out. Otherwise, it's going to be predictable. It's going to be Daredevil and Wolverine.
Nice. I like it. What is the comic series that made you feel complex feelings?
Ooh, complex feelings. That's interesting. Maybe the Daredevil book I'm reading right now, Daredevil Born Again. Like I said, it's quite a darker storyline, so it's definitely eliciting more emotions than usual.
Mm,
So that's my off the top of my head answer right now.
I like it. Who is the smartest hero that you've read? And then they ask, why is it Reed Richards?
It is genuinely Reed Richards.
Yeah.
They've had Iron Man be smart and stuff. They've had
Mm.
different characters be smart in these books. There's a lot of geniuses in Marvel. But in one of the Fantastic Four books I read, I believe it is from the Ryan North run. Um, he basically Reed gets trapped in a different dimension with a couple of powers, and by using his brain, he somehow calculates like something about like the physics of the world and something, and by stretching his arms the right way, manages to like reconfigure or like get out of there like just by stretching and thinking about this dimension
That's
kind of thing.
sick.
I don't know how he does it. It was like comic book physics magic kind of thing. But I'm like, wow, that was crazy. So
That's so cool.
that's up there. But yeah, Reed's a cool character in the comics. Like one of the things I read, he took like Spider-Man's web shooters and reconfigured some of the tech to upgrade Iron Man's suit, like because they needed a boost.
Oh, that's
And that was,
cool.
and it made me wish repurpose in Marvel Champions, you could like discard your tech and give somebody else a stat boost, something like that.
Oh, that would be cool.
So there's a little twist.
Yeah, but like that makes the repurpose card a lot more interesting, I think. Now I can conceptually like think about it's like, okay, I'm turning this force field generator into extra attack because I tinkered with it and now it's exploding or something. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Okay. And then I did ask this earlier, but just to kind of continue on in the question, who is the strongest hero? They say it's Hulk. But we also talked about Thor being really strong, and then Sentry.
Captain Marvel, I think, might be up there. I've got a book for her I haven't read yet called Earth's Mightiest Hero. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it's called.
Exhaust an Avenger to ready one.
Imagine if I open the book and that's what it is. That'd be really funny.
Also, that art better be from that book.
Ooh, I don't know if it is. That'd be funny though.
Let me know. Let me know.
Yeah. You know, how strong are the mutants, right? Because don't some of these characters have like the ability to rewrite the universe? There are characters like that. Isn't like I want to say I want to maybe
strong.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some crazy powers in the comics, so I don't know.
That's wild. So to cap off their question, they said favorite power to have, favorite hero, best comic series to make them feel complex feelings, smartest and strongest. The answer to all 5 for the Olaps is Daredevil. So
a lot of those for me would be Daredevil. Like favorite hero, we kind of talked about. Like, people who listen to every episode already know this.
yeah,
I don't know if I catch all of those, but I mean, if I had to pick one hero for all of them, let's just go with Daredevil.
I love it. I love it. So, we've talked for about an hour in podcast time. Is reading comics something that you're going to continue on doing in your life?
Yeah, I really like it. I had a bit of time this week. My partner's got the week off, so it's been like, what should we do? Should we go here? Should we go there? And I'm just kind of just feel like reading comics or something. And the nice thing, we can take them like in the garden. You can kind of just read it wherever. And that's really, really fun to have. And like something based on, like a TV screen or something. I mean, I guess you can watch stuff in different places, but it's not kind of quite the same. It's not as relaxing to like taking a book outside is awesome. I highly recommend it to people. I think, like I said earlier, I think the art could be a big factor for some people because the comic books are ultimately a visual medium. So maybe you need to find the art that suits you, find a character you're interested in, and just enjoy it. Most of the books, you don't need prior knowledge. Some of them, it definitely helps a lot, but a lot of them kind of inform you on what you need to know. So be brave.
That's good to know.
And enjoy.
I think that makes it a little bit less intimidating from my standpoint. That if the books, assuming that you're not picking up, book 4 in the arc, right? But like if the books kind of give a background of what you need to know, I think that lowers the intimidation factor for me a little bit, which is nice.
A lot of them do. Like a book that comes out, let's say last year, isn't going to expect you to have read this book from like, I don't know, 50 years ago. Some of them might reference an event, but it will like, the character will like, oh, when this happened. And then you kind of know it happened, but the story's around other things, even if they call back to something. So, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Well, in the comments, wherever you're watching or listening, let us know what your thoughts are around comics and Marvel Champions. Are you a comic book reader? Did you get into the game because of the theme, because you love comics? Or are you like Villain Theory, where you've started to read comics because you enjoy the game so much? I'm curious about that as well. Or are you like me, who just play the game and haven't read the comics? So, hopefully that will change. Hopefully that will change soon. But yeah, let us know down in the comments. Appreciate you all listening. If you have any questions, be sure to email us at shadowofthecast@gmail.com. And for our next episode, which we are working on exactly what that is going to be, we have not hammered down the details on that yet, so I can't tease it just in case it does change. But that should be coming out in about a month from now. And make sure that you check the YouTube community page on my channel, Nelson All Over Cards, for a post to ask your questions there. Villain, any last words before we sign off on comics?
I feel like we've already asked a lot, but if people have recommendations on what to read, I don't think we've said this yet. I would love to hear some recommendations, or anything about your favorite comics, any just little bits of fun information like that. I think that'd be really cool to read. I'm gonna read all the comments. I usually read most of them. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Excellent. I am also curious. I'm currently reading. I can't recall if I said this when we were recording or not. I'm currently reading through a Star Wars comic, but I need to dive in to some Marvel stuff. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out. And yeah, until next time, hope everyone has just a fantastic time playing Marvel Champions and reading Marvel comics. Until then, see you around. Peace.
Bye.